Hey, good evening, Community Circle Church. Hey, surprise, it's Wednesday night. I know we usually meet on Sundays, but with everything that's been going on, we kind of changed things up on Sunday, and we had this teaching, and we really wanted to get it out, so we decided to come to you on a Wednesday night. I hope you've been watching. I hope you've enjoyed what you've been watching with this series. Please like it and comment on it and then share it, okay? Because that really does help us out a lot when you do that. It helps get the word out, and it tells Facebook that people are really engaged with this, and it helps it spread to other people's feeds. So please help us out, get those numbers up. Let's really work on seeing our families come together. Let's have watch parties. It doesn't have to be tonight, Wednesday night. If you're watching at a later time, you can do this anytime. The videos are going to be there. We had a little bit of a scare yesterday. All the videos disappeared. We were getting comments and concerns from pastors across the country that Facebook had just lost all of their videos. And we started looking into it. There was some kind of a glitch. We really don't know what happened, but they're back. All the videos from Community Circle Church, they're back safe and sound. And you can watch them anytime from the comfort of your home. Or if you want to put it on your Bluetooth in your car while you're driving, you can listen to it. It's at Your CC Church. That's where you can find it on Facebook. You can find it on YouTube. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Instagram. And you can find us at our website, yourccchurch.com. All of our videos are there. We try to get those downloaded on there as soon as possible for those of you who may not have Facebook, so you can watch them. But please, get the word out. Share them, like them, comment, and I tell you what, God is doing amazing things. They tell me I use my hands too much. I'm sorry if that's bothering somebody, but that's one of my glitches, all right? But we've been in this series the last couple of weeks on the starting five. And what we've been trying to do is we've been taking a look at some of the greatest Lakers, the greatest Los Angeles Lakers to ever wear the jersey. And I'm telling you what, if you're a real basketball fan at Community Circle Church, and my friends out there, I believe that you are, then you're a Laker fan. Okay? Now my wife really tries to irritate me and talk about the Celtics. Well, you know what? I grew up in the 80s, and the Lakers and the Celtics, they hated each other. It was a bitter rivalry. And you know what? Even though there's not really much of a rivalry today, I still don't like the Celtics. All right? I'm a Laker fan through and through, die-hard purple and gold. I grew up in Southern California. It was Dodgers, Lakers, Rams. That's how it was, and that's how it still is. So we've been talking about 5 of the greatest Lakers to ever wear the jersey. So far, we've talked about Kobe Bryant. We've talked about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And today, we look into Magic Johnson. Everybody pretty much knows about Magic Johnson. It goes beyond basketball because Magic Johnson's been a humanitarian. He's part owner of the greatest sports team to ever be on the face of the earth, the Los Angeles Dodgers. Okay, he's got his hands into just about everything. Now, Irving Magic Johnson, he left Michigan State University and joined the Los Angeles Lakers in 1979. Now, for some of you out there, 1979 doesn't register because you weren't even born yet. Some of you, you're like, wow, I didn't know that life even began before the 90s. Yeah, Magic Johnson left the University of Michigan and he joined the Lakers in 1979, and the success was immediate. Magic Johnson won an NBA championship with the Lakers in his first season, the 1979-1980 season. It was magical. All right, so we've got instant success, instant expectations on this young man. Now, let me ask you this question: how many of you out there in cyber world that are watching, and I hope there's a bunch of people watching, but how many of you know how Magic Johnson got his name, Magic Johnson? That wasn't his given name. His name is Irving Johnson. Okay, does anybody know how he got his name, Magic Johnson? Glad you asked. I'm going to tell you. Okay, so Magic Johnson got his nickname when he was 15 years old. Now, I was called a lot of things when I was 15. Okay, but Magic was never one of them. All right. So he was 15 years old, and he was playing in a high school game. I believe it was a state championship game in Lansing, Michigan. All right. There's a sports writer there. He's watching Magic. Magic has 36 points. He's got 18 rebounds. He's got 16 assists. And this guy, the sports writer, goes, "Man, this kid's Magic." And I guess he went into the locker room after the game and he says, "Man, I watched you play, and I'm going to call you Magic." And all these years later, this sports writer that was covering the game called him Magic, and the name has stuck. Can you believe that? At 15 years old, before anybody outside of Lansing, Michigan really knew about Irving Johnson, he got that nickname Magic, and it has stuck all these years. Now, we could take that and we could go, so many different directions with it. We could sit there and say, okay, we're going to talk about names, and we're going to talk about titles, and we're going to talk about stigmas that maybe have been placed on you throughout the years by people around you, by people you work with, by people that you go to school with, by your family. They've put these names and these titles and these stigmas on you, and maybe they've stuck throughout the years. Maybe you've been called worthless, and maybe you've been called lazy, and maybe you've been called stupid. Maybe you've been called all of these things. And so we could talk about that, and we could talk about whether or not you've allowed those names to define you and what you've done with it. But we're not going to go that route. We're not going to talk about that tonight, okay? We could have a discussion of which one of those names that you need to leave here and what your new name should be. We could, but we're not going to talk about that tonight. No, you see, that's maybe for another day and another time. But we're going to use our time today, and we're going to talk about some of the greatest contributions of Magic Johnson. Like Kobe and like Kareem, okay, Magic Johnson was a multi-time NBA champion. Okay, he was multi-time All-Star, and he was a most valuable player. Okay, all of this was just like Kobe, just like Kareem. He also had an intense drive to win. He wanted to win no matter what. Magic drove himself, and he did whatever it took to win. Now, what does that have to do with what we're talking about, okay? So, listen, just stick with me for a minute, okay? Because the thing about Magic was when he was on the court, when he was on the floor, he had the incredible ability to make everybody around him a better player. I remember my dad talking to me about Magic Johnson. And he said, the thing about Magic is he'll do whatever it takes to win. If Magic has to score, then Magic will take the game over and Magic will score. If Magic has to rebound, Magic will take over that part of the game and he will rebound. If Magic has to dish the ball off and get assist, then that's what Magic will do. But Magic had this incredible ability to make everybody around him better. You would have never heard of A.C. Green, James Worthy, or Byron Scott if it had not been for Magic Johnson. And your argument may be, how can you say that? You say you're a Laker fan. Those were great NBA players. My argument is that not that they weren't great NBA players, but my argument is Magic made them great. Magic is the reason that you know who any of those people are. Magic Johnson, when he was on the court, he made everybody about him better. Okay? When Magic would take some time off, he would have to go sit on the bench to rest for a little while. If you ever watched those games when that happened, the team had a tendency to just kind of stand around. There wasn't the flow that would go on with the Lakers when Magic wasn't on the court. But you know what? He'd go kneel by the scorer's booth, signaling that he was coming in the next time that the clock stopped. Magic would come back onto the court, and all of a sudden, it was like magic. Things just started flowing. He came back into the court. Everybody got back into the flow that was going on, okay? If we stop and think about it for a minute, there's a guy in the Bible who I believe that we can say was a lot like Magic Johnson. And you're going, there's basketball players in the Bible? Well, hold on. Just hear me out, okay? I'm not telling you that this guy could dunk a basketball, or that he could dribble through traffic, or that he could break down defenses the way Magic did. But the Apostle Paul, he made everybody around him better. What did we say about Magic Johnson? He made everybody on the court around him better. The Apostle Paul made everybody around him better as well. See, Paul started churches everywhere that he went. He was a church planter and a church starter, and he wanted to see people do great things for Jesus. Okay? He didn't start off that way, but Paul, once he got his conversion, was a church planter and wanted to see the cause of Christ go everywhere he went. Okay? Paul also did something that has made churches better even today. Even today we can look back and we can see that Paul wrote 13 letters. Okay? And we still use those in our Bible today. See, Paul left us a legacy. He left us these letters or these documents to make us better. He gave us all of this teaching. He gave us instruction. He gave us some rebuke. But he did it for us to use for today to make us better. Paul sent these instructions, or you can call them letters or teachings or documents, to make us better. He did it for me. He did it for you. He did it for everybody around us, because he wanted to see not just the people of his time, but people of all time get better. Okay, Paul did it to make us better. And you might be asking yourself, what did Paul write these letters about that makes me better? What is it I'm supposed to be better at? So glad you asked, okay? Because Paul writes stuff to give us instruction on how to be better at relationships, better at leadership, better at following and living for Jesus, and so much more. All to make us better. In each one of these documents that Paul gave us, he gives us ways to get better. See, I'm of the belief that if what we're going through now, and I'm not even talking about the virus, I'm talking about just life. If this is as good as it gets, then you know what, God, you can just take me now. But I believe things can get better. I think we can do better things. We can do greater things. And Paul gave us the instruction and some teachings on how to do that in these documents that he gave us. So let me give you a couple of examples of some of the stuff that Paul wrote that helps us to get better. You see, in 1 Timothy, it was written to give encouragement and instruction to Timothy, who was a young leader, a young pastor. And you know, when you're young in the faith and you're trying to venture out, there's things that you worry about. And is anybody going to listen to me? So Paul tells them this in 1 Timothy 4:12. He says, don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and purity. Timothy, don't worry about being young. Just do what you know to do. Do what you've been instructed to do. In 2 Thessalonians, it was given to clean up the confusion about the second coming of Christ, because we believe Jesus is coming back someday. So 2 Thessalonians 3:5, it says, may the Lord direct your hearts in God's love and Christ's perseverance. He's coming back. And Paul says, hey, let's get ready for it, church. The church at Thessalonica needed some instruction, and they needed some teaching to know that Jesus was coming back. 1 Corinthians was written to identify the problems, okay, in the Corinthian church. You want to talk about some problems in the church? Think Las Vegas on steroids. Think San Francisco, New York City, the loose living, all of the problems that's going on. That was the city of Corinth. And the church wasn't much better. And so he writes this letter to address these problems in the church at Corinth. And he's to offer solutions and to teach believers how to live for Christ in a corrupt society. Does that speak to anybody today? Do we not need help living in a corrupt society? I mean, look around us, my friends. I mean, there's problems going on all over the place. And so 1 Corinthians 1:10 is one of the key verses of the book of 1 Corinthians. It says, I appeal to you, brothers and sisters, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that all of you agree with one another in what you say, and that there be no divisions among you, but that you be perfectly united in mind and thought. He's saying, church people, hey, don't bicker, don't fight. It's okay. Let's live for Christ. Okay. Magic Johnson was probably the best at creating ways to help his teammates. I know there's a lot of arguments of who's the best. Okay, was it Bill Russell? Was it Michael Jordan? Okay, is it LeBron James? Was it Kobe Bryant? I'm going to tell you, because basketball is not an individual sport, it's a team sport. Jordan, who most everybody I grew up with says was the greatest of all time. Michael Jordan was a great scorer. He was a phenomenal scorer. But Magic Johnson, I think, was the best basketball player because he did whatever it took to win, and he made everybody around him great. Go back on YouTube and look at some of the clips of Magic Johnson in his playing days. If you didn't have your hands up on the court, you were going to get the basketball to the forehead because you never knew when Magic Johnson was going to pass you the ball because he was making you great by taking on all of the defense. Magic would break down those defenses, and he would create opportunities that made his fellow Lakers great. That was what he was looking at. Paul did the same thing. Paul did the exact same thing with our faith. Okay? With the Christian faith, Paul broke down defenses. You see, Paul laid down his life. He died for his faith. Paul suffered decapitation because of his faith, because he wouldn't deny it. And because of what Paul gave us, he gave us 13 letters or 13 documents that we can still review today. He broke down those defenses for us and allowed men and women to rise to greatness in their faith. Okay? Just think about it with me for a minute. Consider this. Okay? Paul was killed for his faith, okay, but he left behind those documents. Magic Johnson made household names out of average players like Byron Scott, A.C. Green, James Worthy, and Vlade Divac. He made household names. Everybody knew who James Worthy was. Big Game James is what they used to call him. Byron Scott, you know, when he was on, he was on. Byron Scott would go out there and he would hit, 7 or 8 3-pointers in a row to help come back to win the game. But when he was off, he would miss 15 to 20 3-pointers in a row. It's like, stop throwing him the ball. Stop throwing him the ball. But Magic made household names out of these guys because he made them great. Okay? Paul helped create some of the greatest movers and shakers of our time. People like Billy Graham, A.W. Tozer, Martin Luther, Stephen Furtick, Craig Rochelle, Andy Stanley, Jeremy Foster, and so many, many, many more. Why? Because we are still reading those documents that Paul left us from thousands of years ago. We still have those documents that Paul left us so that we could walk in greatness in our faith. Now let me ask you just a couple of simple questions before we get out of here today. Are you making anybody around you better? Are you creating greatness wherever you go, or are you creating diversity? Are you creating a divisive spirit? Are people more happy when you leave or when you walk into a room? Okay, what are you doing to make people around you great? Do people come to you and ask you for your advice because you've shown wisdom? Do they ask you to pray for them? What are you doing to make everybody around you better? Are you adding value to people's life? Are people more valuable than the day they met you because you've added value to them? Right? Simple questions. Let's think about it. Are you doing like Magic and Paul and making those around you great? I hope that you are. I want you to know I'm trying. I don't know how well I'm doing yet, but I'm trying. I'm trying my hardest to make those around me great. That's why I want you to share these videos, because I think this is something that can help people out. Magic and Paul, they didn't do it for the glory. They didn't do it because they wanted their names to be in lights. Now, that came, but it wasn't the focus. It was not their focus. Their focus was to make everybody else better. Okay? Everybody else has to be better. Is that happening with us? Is it all about you? Or is it all about making everybody else better around you? Okay? Which one is it? I certainly hope you're making people better around you. Let's focus on that. Okay? So if not, What do we need to do to make it happen? What can we do to make people around us better? What can we do to help them get better in their lives? What can we do to make their lives better since they know us now than it was before we met them? Okay? I would suggest that you spend some time in these letters that Paul wrote. So, well, I don't know which letters Paul wrote. You know what? You've got one of the greatest gifts ever. It's called Google. And all you have to do is just type in letters that Paul wrote, and it'll give you the list of the 13. Now, some of them are going to say that Paul wrote Hebrews. We don't know who wrote Hebrews. Some people credit Paul with it, but I'm going to tell you right now, if they list 14, I don't want you to think I'm trying to, be a false prophet here, but we don't really know who wrote Hebrews. A lot of people think Paul did, but we don't know for sure. But yeah, Google those letters and start reading through those and see some of the things that that are just going to light up on you. Well, I don't understand it. Well, there's so many versions. Remember, we've talked about this. YouVersion Bible app, YOU version. Okay, it's free. It goes on your Apple. It goes on your Droid device. Get it. Go through, find a version that works for you. Okay, but spend some time in those letters. Okay, listen to the instruction. Follow it. Isn't that simple? Listen to the instruction Paul gives you and then follow it. Speak life into people around you. Do not speak condemnation. Do not speak negativity. Do not speak death. Speak life into them. You can do it. You're amazing. You're wonderful. You're awesome. Speak life into them and watch them just light up. And you'll never believe what people can really do when you speak a little life into them, okay? Invite your family and your friends to church. And I've got this great idea. Invite them to Community Circle Church. Now, I know we're in a little bit different of a situation right now, and that's okay. You can invite them to a watch party. You can share this with them. Honestly, we had big plans for Easter. I don't know what's going to happen with Easter. We're still waiting to see what the government's going to do. But no matter what, believe me, Community Circle Church will have something for you. And you can invite them to your watch party. If we're able to have church, you can invite them there. There's a poll that was done. 82% of people who said that they didn't have a home church, if they were invited to go to church, they would have gone. 8 out of 10 people. So, my friends, let's jump on that stat. Let's start inviting people. Let's start asking. Because you know what? When we invest in somebody's life by inviting them to church, only good things can come from that. So let's invite them. Let's let them, come in and get in some of the study and read about what Paul's saying. Okay? 82%. Remember that. Share, like, comment these videos. This could actually change somebody's life. Maybe not right away, but we believe God just needs a little bit of a seed to see something grow. Let's be the light of the world around us, okay? Let's make those around us better. Let's not be satisfied with the way the world is now. Let's make it better. Now, I know we've been going through a lot. There's been a lot of anxiety. There's been a lot of fear. There's been a lot of stress. But I'm going to tell you again, like I told you Sunday, God is not surprised by this, and God is still in control. He's still on the throne, and He's got this. Hashtag God's got this. Okay? Let me pray for us right here before we go. Father, I thank you for everybody that's watching us. God, I thank you for the lives that are being touched, that are being transformed. I thank you for the people that are going to see this as it's shared with them. They're going to come across this in their feed by accident, and they're going to watch it, and they're going to learn something, and their lives are going to be transformed. Maybe not right away, but God, we know you're partnering with Community Circle Church and with the members to reach out and to touch the world around us. To touch Shafter and Wasco and McFarland, Delano, Bakersfield, Taft, and all these areas beyond. We believe, God, that you are doing it right now. God, we know that the world is in a panic, but God, you're not. God, you are in control. You are on the throne, and we thank you for that. God, I pray that you bring peace of mind, you bring prosperity. God, you bring courage and faith to everybody that hears this. We thank you for it in Jesus' name. Amen. And remember, church, the best is yet to come.